Hey everybody, welcome back to Hoffman Reproductions. Thank you for tuning in. And one more video on how we make black powder. There's some confusion with the graining and sizing, so I thought I'd go ahead and just show that the exact procedure to help clear up any questions people have been sending our way. So without further ado, I have a batch of gunpowder here that I have used all of our ingredients. I have milled them for the appropriate amount of time. I have mixed them with our alcohol. We have our powder lump, and we're ready to begin the graining process. So I've got a couple of cookie trays here. I've got my little screen and frame set up. This is just standard porch screen. A lot of people are asking, is it a very specific size? No, it's not. This is just standard porch screen stretched over a wooden frame that I got from a Lowe's or a Home Depot or any hardware store. I'm also wearing rubber gloves. You can tell I've been mixing with this one. And we have our powder lump. And I have well, it's not clean, but a piece of muslin fabric. This comes in handy. So just take your powder lump. It's sort of like the consistency of wet clay, or it should be. I put it down inside the piece of fabric, and this step I did not show previously, but I found that if your powder is a little wet, you can wring out the excess moisture this way prior to graining, and it also seems to help form better, more durable grains doing this. So our powder lump is in the center of the cloth. I'm going to take it, dust it off a little bit, and then just wring it out. Any excess moisture you have from the water and alcohol mix, you can get rid of. Like I said, this is helpful if you've made your black powder too wet. Okay, so with the excess moisture removed, go ahead and take your powder out now, and it'll kind of be clumped together. It might come out in several pieces. I'll just gently dump it out. Got any stuck there, get it off. You can get several uses out of a rag. I'll make sure you rinse it off really good, and then eventually you will have to replace it. It breaks down. Okay, so I take this, the powder clump, and this is the graining process. So I just take it and grate it back and forth. You don't really want to push, you want to just grate it like you're grating cheese. And this is going to break up the powder lump into your granules. Now, we've had a lot of questions as to specifically what screen size I'm using, and again, this is just window screen or porch screen from your local home center. I've not found it's possible to make a dedicated size out of one batch. In other words, it's not possible to say, okay, this batch is going to be nothing but 2F. During the next step, the sifting or the sizing that I'm going to show, that's when you get your dedicated grains and you get a mix of everything out of a batch of powder, which they're all useful, which is good, but making it this way, I've not found that it's possible to get, again, just one dedicated size. You're going to get a mix of sizes. And as far as where to get a screen set, we've been getting that question a lot. And I just use kitchen screens, and you can buy those sets again on Amazon, eBay, or even check a local Walmart or kitchen supply store. You can get the sizes from very large all the way down to, will sift your powder fine as dust. People want to know, how are you getting exactly the right F size? And I don't know that I'm getting it precisely the same as commercial, but it's very close, and I say that because I have commercial available to compare it to. Some people don't feel that's precise enough, in which case you'll have to hunt out a dedicated 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5F screening set. But for what I'm doing, I've been happy with my results, and that's how I go about doing it. So I'm going to continue to get this grained. And when it's finished, we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so I have finished graining both sections of the black powder lump again, divide it in half, put them on separate trays for safety reasons. It is not dangerous at this point. Being wet like this, it will not ignite. I've tried it with a propane torch and it sort of half-heartedly will fizzle after it's held there for a while, but it is relatively safe at this point, is the reason I'm not wearing a face shield. But so it is damp at this point, and you want to be careful with the grains because you can mash them back into a clump. So I kind of just gently scoot it around, spread it out a little bit. Maybe if you got a big clump, you can kind of break it up, but don't handle it too much, again, because you can mash it back into a clump form, and the whole idea at this point is to start to turn it into grains. So right now what I'm going to do is go ahead and set this in sun. Direct sunlight is the best for several hours, and as it is drying I will gently scoot it around with a large kitchen knife, chop up any of the clumps that are remaining, and when fully dry we'll be ready for the sizing or the sifting of our powder, and that's when we'll get our dedicated sizes. So that steps up next. Alright. Okay, so our powder is beginning to dry, and when I say chop it up, this is all I'm really talking about. Just gently work it over, spread it back and forth. You'll see some bigger clumps like out in here that you can bust up with a knife. And just every 20 minutes or so I'll come out and do that till fully dry. It typically takes 1 to 3 hours depending on how good the sunlight is using this method. But that's all I'm doing, chopping up the clumps and moving the powder around to dry out what's on the bottom. Okay, our powder is now fully dry. I took a couple hours of direct sunlight and then I moved it into my warm shop here for a little while, but it is fully dry now, and we have a little pile of it down here. You know you have it milled properly, you know you have it mixed properly and grained, and it is fully dry when ignition is instantaneous, which I will demonstrate. Also, you'll notice we have no white or yellow fouling, just light black fouling, which is what you want with properly milled and mixed grained black. Okay, so we are now set up with our dried powder and we are ready to do the sifting or sizing of the powder, and this is where a lot of the confusion has been laid, so hopefully I can clear a few things up. I've got our mixing container, plastic bowl down. It's clean, wiped out. Also, our graining screen, same exact one. Again, this is just standard port screen from a Lowe's or Home Depot. Our finished dried black powder. I apologize if I'm going to sound muffled, but I do wear a full face shield when doing this. So what I do is just take a piece of cardstock. This is a paint chip sample. Take the gunpowder, put it on your screen. A little at a time's fine. You don't have to do the whole thing. And then just gently push it back and forth. Everything that falls down through this first screen is your 2, your 3F, and your priming. What stays behind on top is your 1F, your biggest size. 1F is good for muskets and large calibered rifles, so it's nice to have a little bit of that. You can use your finger to do it, however, if you do that I recommend that you wear gloves because you don't want the moisture from your hands to affect the gunpowder. So work it around like that. Again, your priming, your 2 and your 3F are going to pass through this size screen. What stays on top is your 1F. Alright, so I've transferred what was on top of the screen, our 1F, to our powder container. They're just old GoX containers. Make sure you use a watertight and airtight container, non-sparking, whatever you use to store it. Just keep it dry and safe from heat and sparks is the main thing. Alright, so I have the powder dumped out on a sheet of paper now, and I have replaced our screen with a car window sunscreen, so a very, very fine mesh. People always ask what exactly size is that, exactly what size it is, I don't know. What I do know is your 2 and your 3F will sit on top of this. What falls through is your 4F. So I'm going to do that next. So same thing, just dump it on there. I typically do this outside, but it's starting to get dark here, so I'm doing it in my shop just for safety purposes. And just shake it around. Just do a little bit at a time. No need to do massive amounts of powder. Just kind of work it back and forth. Spread it out so you get all that fine stuff falling down through there. Alright, so what is left is my 2 and my 3F. You would need another size screen to separate the 2 from the 3. I have been happy shooting that just for target shooting, reenacting, and plinking. That's fine. If you want to separate them out, you'd have to find another screen that is in between the 2 that I demonstrated. But 2 and 3F on top, and down below we have our priming powder. It's akin to, I would say, 5F, just a little finer than 4F. I save it, works excellent as priming. If you don't want to save it, when you're mixing up your next batch of powder, you can dump your dust in on that wet lump and just mix it back in if you're not interested in the fine stuff, but I do save that for priming. So hopefully that cleared things up on the sizing. That's how I go about doing it. Not as precise as you might think, but I have been happy with the results thus far when shooting. Well, one last thing I wanted to mention before we sign off here. This particular batch that I have made and demonstrated and sifted, mixed and everything, I did so using one of our kits that we talked about, our half-pound black powder making kits. Since our last video, I have gone ahead and put those together and started selling them on our website. www.hoffmanreproductions.com is the website, and I had 20 kits made up and 20 kits sold. They sold pretty darn quick. Within a week they were all down the road. If you're interested in one, please be patient. I'm going to try and get more made and stocked on there. Obviously, I am not the new GoX black powder company, so it's just going to kind of be here and there as I have time to get more kits made. But that is where you can get them, and as we demonstrated, they work pretty darn good as long as you follow the instructions. And just wanted to demonstrate that and show you how they work. Ready? Alright everybody, well that's going to wrap it up. Hopefully you found that video entertaining and informative all in one. And obviously I'm joined here by my little buddy. This is my 4-year-old son Nathaniel. He's helping me today. And in all things, we just want to remind you to
be careful, folks.
Be careful, folks. That's the motto when making black powder. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye. So Nathaniel has decided it is very crucial to stop and roll around in the leaves when making black powder. Be sure to do that. Very helpful.